Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about branding.
Okay.
More specifically, we're going to be talking about how to create an unrivaled brand identity. And this is something that really is important no matter where you are in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, you're just starting out, personal brand, business brand,
Right.
whatever it is, having that strong brand identity is going to make all the difference.
Yeah.
Um, and the source material that we're going to be using for today's deep dive is actually a podcast episode all about branding.
Okay.
So we're going to be pulling out all the juicy insights,
Yep.
the kind of actionable things that you can use and apply right away.
Awesome.
But before we even get into that, I want to pose a question to you.
Yeah.
What is it that makes a brand really stand out to you? When you think about brands that you love, brands that you're loyal to, what is it that really captures your attention?
That's a great question. And you know what's interesting is that a lot of people, when they think about branding, they immediately jump to the visuals. Like, oh, a cool logo, a really sleek website, things like that.
Yeah.
But what research has really shown is that it's the emotional resonance that a brand has with its audience that actually packs the biggest punch.
I see.
So those visuals are important,
Yeah.
but they're just one small piece of a much bigger picture.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
It's really about creating a connection that goes beyond just the surface.
Yeah, and you know what, that actually reminds me when I first started out, I was so focused on, getting the perfect logo and having this amazing website
Mm-hmm.
that I totally overlooked the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like I was so caught up in those visuals that I didn't really think about the deeper connection that I needed to make with my audience.
Right.
So I learned that the hard way, that, without that genuine connection, all those visuals are essentially meaningless.
They're just window dressing.
Yeah, exactly. So we've kind of touched on this idea of connecting with your audience.
Yeah.
And I think that brings us to like a really fundamental principle of branding, which is truly knowing your audience.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about demographics. It's about understanding their aspirations, their anxieties, their motivations.
It's like stepping into their shoes and seeing the world through their eyes.
Right. So how do we actually get into their heads? Like, how do we get beyond just the basic, age, gender, location? What are some tools or strategies that we can use to really understand them on a deeper level?
Well, one really valuable tool is creating detailed customer personas.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of those.
So think of these as like fictional representations of your ideal customers.
Sure.
They help you to visualize and empathize with your target audience.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like we're going beyond just the basic demographics. We're getting into our psychographics, their values, their lifestyles.
Exactly.
That sounds like a bit of detective work almost.
It is. It really is. And
Yeah.
that's where research comes in. Things like surveys, interviews, even just listening to what people are saying on social media.
Right.
All of those can give you really incredible insights into what makes your audience tick.
That's so true. And putting in the time and effort to really understand your audience, I can already see how that would pay off in the long run.
Absolutely.
Because then you're able to craft a message that really resonates with them.
Exactly.
So we've talked about knowing your audience.
Yeah.
But once we have that deep understanding, what's the next step? Like, how do we actually start to translate that understanding into a powerful brand identity?
That's where the magic of storytelling comes in.
Okay. Storytelling.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about storytelling. What is it about stories that's so powerful when it comes to branding?
Well, studies have shown that our brains are actually hardwired to respond to stories.
Really?
They help us to connect with information on a much deeper emotional level,
Oh, I see.
which makes it so much more memorable and impactful.
And when it comes to branding, a compelling story can really be that cornerstone of a strong identity.
So it's not just about listing off, features and benefits.
Right.
It's about creating a narrative that captures the essence of your brand,
Exactly.
your values, your purpose,
And why?
your why.
Yes. What drives your brand? And, one thing to keep in mind here is that authenticity and vulnerability are really key. People can spot a fake story a mile away.
Right.
So you really have to be genuine and share your truth.
Yeah, I think consumers these days are so much more savvy.
They are.
They can see right through that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, authenticity is key. And when you're genuine in your storytelling, it creates that sense of trust.
Yes.
And connection with your audience. I mean, think about some of the brands that you really admire.
Yeah.
Chances are they have a really captivating brand story
They do.
that resonates with you on a personal level. Okay, so we've talked about knowing your audience,
Yes.
the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Now we shift our focus to consistency.
Okay, consistency.
And it's fascinating how often a brand's story, even one that's very vulnerable, can be undermined by inconsistent messaging.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely learned this the hard way.
Yeah.
In the early days, my brand was all over the place.
Uh-oh.
My messaging, my visuals were inconsistent,
Yeah.
and it just created a confusing experience for my audience.
I bet.
It was almost like I was wearing a different outfit every day.
That's a fantastic analogy. And it really highlights why consistency is so important.
Right?
Your brand needs to have that recognizable voice and style
Yeah.
across all touch points,
Yeah.
whether it's your website, your social media, your email signature, all of it needs to be consistent.
So consistency is about creating a cohesive experience,
Exactly.
making sure everything aligns with that brand story and the image you want to project.
Precisely. It's like building a house.
Okay.
Each element from the foundation to the roof needs to be carefully considered and integrated to create a really solid structure. And in the context of branding, that structure is what helps your audience to recognize you and remember you.
Right. I like that analogy a lot. So we've talked about building that solid structure through consistency. But what about maintaining that structure over time?
Yeah.
Like, how do we ensure that our brand stays consistent?
It's a great question, and that's where a style guide can be incredibly helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of style guides, but I got to be honest, I've never really used one myself.
Right.
What exactly does a style guide entail?
It's essentially a document that outlines all the essential elements of your brand.
Okay.
So everything from your logo usage to your color palette, your brand voice and tone. It ensures that everyone who's involved in communicating your brand is on the same page.
So it's like having a brand Bible
Exactly.
to keep everything consistent and aligned.
Precisely.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And it's an invaluable tool, especially as your brand grows.
Yeah.
And you have more people contributing to its communication.
That's true. Okay, so we've talked about the visual side of consistency, the messaging side.
Yes.
But creating a consistent brand experience goes beyond just that, right?
Doug.
Like, what about the way we engage with our audience?
That's a really important point. We've talked about getting to know them, crafting a story, and being consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But what about actually building relationships
Mm-hmm.
and fostering that sense of community?
Yeah, that's huge.
That's where engagement comes into play.
Okay, engagement.
It's about creating that two-way dialogue with your audience, making them feel seen and heard.
Okay.
And in today's digital age, there are so many different avenues for engagement.
Oh, yeah, so many. I mean, social media immediately comes to mind.
Absolutely.
It's such a powerful tool for brands these days.
Yeah.
But it's not just about, posting content.
Right.
It's about actively participating in the conversation.
Exactly. Responding to comments, hosting Q&As.
Hmm.
Even just liking and sharing user-generated content
Yeah.
can make a huge difference.
It's showing your audience that you're not just broadcasting a message. You're actually listening,
Yes.
and you're engaging with them on a personal level.
Exactly. And those personal interactions are what build loyalty
Right.
and turn casual followers into passionate advocates for your brand.
That's so true.
And this leads us to another really crucial aspect of building an unrivaled brand.
Okay, what's that?
Innovation.
Oh, innovation. Okay, so we've covered knowing your audience,
Yes.
crafting a compelling story,
Mm-hmm.
being consistent,
Mm-hmm.
engaging with your audience. Now we're talking about innovation.
We are.
This is like we're building this amazing brand framework here.
It is a framework.
Yeah.
And innovation is the element that keeps your brand fresh and relevant and exciting.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Because the market's constantly evolving.
It is.
Consumer preferences are always shifting. So if you're not innovating, you're going to get left behind.
You risk becoming stagnant and falling behind.
Right. It's adapt or perish.
Exactly.
But what does innovation actually look like in the context of branding?
It can take many forms.
So,
It could be developing new products or services, exploring new marketing channels, or even just finding creative ways to refresh your brand's image.
so it's not always about like reinventing the wheel.
Right.
It's about constantly looking for ways to improve
Yeah.
and stay ahead of the curve.
Stay ahead of the curve. Exactly.
I'm thinking about some brands that have been around for decades
Mm-hmm.
and they've managed to stay relevant and successful. And they've done that by constantly adapting and evolving to meet the changing needs of their audience.
They haven't stayed the same.
Right, exactly.
Right.
It's like this delicate dance between staying grounded in your core values,
Yeah.
but also pushing boundaries and trying new things.
That's a great way to put it. And that balance is what makes building an unrivaled brand identity so challenging, yet so rewarding.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to consider. But we've covered so much ground in this deep dive already.
We have.
We've talked about knowing your audience, crafting a story, consistency, engagement, innovation. It feels like we've really outlined like a comprehensive blueprint
We have.
for building a brand that truly stands out.
A blueprint for success.
Yeah,
But, it's important to remember that building a brand is an ongoing journey.
absolutely.
It's not a destination.
No. Yeah, I can relate to that. Building my own brand has been this constant process
Yeah.
of learning, experimenting, refining my approach. It's not always easy, but it is incredibly fulfilling to see your vision come to life.
It is, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's a creative process that allows you to express your unique perspective and connect with people who share your values. But it's also important to acknowledge that it's not always glamorous.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There will be challenges and setbacks along the way.
Oh, I've had my fair share
Yeah.
of obstacles and moments of doubt. But those challenges have honestly made me a better entrepreneur
I bet.
and a better brand builder.
They make you stronger.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the ups and downs and using them as opportunities to learn and grow. And when you approach the process with that mindset, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve.
I love that. So
Yeah.
we've covered a lot.
We have.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier,
Okay.
which is this idea of authenticity.
Authenticity.
It feels like it's this recurring theme
It is.
throughout this entire process of building a brand.
And for good reason. There are so many brands vying for attention these days
Oh, so many.
that what truly makes a brand stand out is that intangible quality of authenticity, the genuine connection to its purpose and values.
Right. It's like we've laid out all these essential ingredients
Yes.
for building a successful brand. But it's not just about following a recipe step by step. It's about finding that unique blend that makes your brand truly your own.
I love that analogy. You can have all the right elements in place, but it's that special something extra, that spark of individuality that elevates a brand from good to unforgettable.
Right. It's not about checking boxes. It's about infusing your brand with your own personality and passion and purpose.
It's about letting your authentic self shine through.
Yeah, and when you're truly passionate about what you're doing,
Yes,
it resonates with people on a much deeper level.
it does.
And that authenticity is what builds trust and loyalty.
It is the foundation of a strong brand.
I love that. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this part of our deep dive. But we'll be back soon to dive even deeper into the world of branding.
I can't wait.
See you soon.
And just like a house needs regular maintenance, a brand needs that ongoing attention to stay consistent.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. It's not a one-time thing.
No, it's an ongoing process.
You got to keep nurturing it.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, that's where a style guide can be incredibly helpful.
A style. Okay. So what exactly is a style guide?
It's basically like a document that outlines all the key elements of your brand.
Okay.
Everything from your logo usage to your color palette, your brand voice and tone. It makes sure that everyone who's involved in communicating your brand is on the same page.
So it's like having a brand Bible.
Exactly, a brand Bible.
Okay.
It keeps everything consistent and aligned.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And it's super valuable, especially as your brand grows.
Right.
And you have more people contributing to its communication.
More cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly, more cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, you got to make sure everyone's following the same recipe.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've talked about the visual side of consistency, the messaging,
Yes.
but creating a consistent brand experience goes beyond just that, right?
It does.
Like, what about the way we actually engage with our audience?
That's such an important point. We've talked about getting to know your audience, crafting your story, being consistent.
Right.
But what about actually building those relationships?
Yeah.
Fostering that sense of community.
That's huge.
That's where engagement comes in.
Okay, engagement.
And it's about creating that two-way dialogue with your audience.
Yeah.
Making them feel seen and heard.
I like that.
And in today's digital age, there are so many different ways to engage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So many avenues. Social media is like the first thing that comes to mind.
Absolutely. Social media is huge.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
But it's not just about posting content, right?
Right.
It's about actively participating in the conversation.
Exactly. Responding to comments, hosting Q&As, even just liking and sharing user-generated content.
Yeah.
can make a big difference.
It's showing your audience that you're not just talking at them. You're actually listening.
Yes, you're listening, you're engaging.
And you're there.
On a personal level.
Yeah, those personal interactions are what build loyalty.
Absolutely.
And turn, casual followers into...
Passionate advocates.
Yeah, passionate advocates for your brand.
It's powerful.
It is powerful.
And, this leads us to another really crucial aspect of building an unrivaled brand.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Innovation.
Innovation. Okay. So we've got knowing your audience.
Yes.
Crafting a compelling story, being consistent,
Yeah.
engaging with our audience. Now we're adding innovation to the mix.
You are.
This is like building this incredible brand framework.
It is a framework for success. And innovation is the element that keeps your brand fresh and relevant and exciting.
Okay, because the market's constantly evolving.
It is constantly evolving.
Consumer preferences are always changing.
Always shift to
If
it.
you're not innovating,
Yeah.
you're going to get left behind.
You become stagnant.
Right. It's like adapt or die.
Adapt or perish, exactly.
So what does innovation look like in the context of branding?
It can take many forms.
Okay.
Developing new products or services, exploring new marketing channels, or even just finding creative ways to refresh your brand's image.
So it's not always about reinventing the wheel.
Right.
It's about constantly iterating and improving.
Finding ways to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, stay ahead of the curve, exactly. There are brands that have been around for decades, and they've managed to stay relevant and successful. And they've done that by constantly adapting and evolving to meet the changing needs of their audience.
They haven't stayed the same.
Right. They've stayed true to their core values.
Yes.
But they've also pushed boundaries and tried new things.
It's a delicate balance.
It is a delicate dance.
Between staying grounded and pushing those boundaries.
Yeah, and that balance is what makes building an unrivaled brand identity so challenging.
But so rewarding.
But so rewarding, exactly. It's a lot to consider.
It is.
We've covered so much in this deep dive.
We have.
We've talked about knowing your audience, crafting a story, consistency, engagement, innovation.
There's a comprehensive blueprint.
It is like a blueprint.
For building a brand that truly stands out.
Yeah, a blueprint for success.
But it's important to remember that building a brand is an ongoing journey.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a destination.
It's a process.
It's a process, exactly.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Building my own brand has been this constant process.
I bet.
Of learning, experimenting, refining my approach. It's not always easy.
It's not always a smooth ride.
No, it's not. But it's so fulfilling to see your vision come to life.
It is. It really is. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's this creative process
Yeah.
that allows you to express your unique perspective and connect with people who share your values.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. But it's also important to acknowledge that it's not always glamorous.
Oh, for sure.
There will be challenges and setbacks along the way.
I've had plenty of obstacles and moments of self-doubt.
But those challenges, honestly, they make you stronger.
They do.
They make you a better entrepreneur, a better brand builder.
Yeah, you learn from your mistakes.
You do.
And you come back stronger.
Exactly. It's about embracing those ups and downs and using them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Right. And when you approach it with that mindset, you can achieve amazing things.
You can and you will.
It's been so interesting to really explore all these different elements of building this unrivaled brand identity. And as we're kind of wrapping up our deep dive here, I want to circle back to something that we touched on earlier.
Okay.
Which is that idea of authenticity.
Authenticity, yes.
It really feels like it's this recurring theme.
It is a recurring theme.
Throughout this whole process.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, there were just so many brands out there vying for attention these days.
Oh, yeah.
So what really makes a brand stand out is that intangible quality of authenticity.
Right.
A genuine connection to its purpose and values.
Yeah, and it's like we've laid out all these essential ingredients
Yeah.
for building a successful brand.
Yes.
But it's not just about following a recipe step by step. It's about finding that unique blend
Yeah.
that makes your brand truly your own.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
You can have all the right elements in place,
Right.
but it's that special something extra, that spark of individuality, that elevates a brand from good to unforgettable.
Yeah, it's not just about checking boxes.
Yeah.
It's about really infusing your brand with your own personality, your passion, your purpose.
It's about letting that authentic self shine through.
Right. And when you're truly passionate about what you're doing,
Yes.
it resonates with people
It
on
does.
such a deeper level.
Yeah.
And that authenticity is what builds trust and loyalty.
It's the foundation of a strong brand.
It is the foundation.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, this has been such an insightful deep dive into the world of branding.
It has been.
You know, we've covered so much ground, from understanding your audience to crafting that compelling story, maintaining consistency, engaging with your community, embracing innovation.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, but it's also important.
It is. And the key takeaway here is that building an unrivaled brand identity, it's a continuous journey of learning, experimenting, refining. There's no finish line.
No.
It's about constantly evolving and adapting
Right.
while staying true to your core values.
And I think that's such an empowering message for anyone who's out there looking to build a brand, whether it's a personal brand, business brand, a brand for a creative project, whatever it is.
It applies to everything.
It does. It's about finding your voice, sharing your story authentically, connecting with people who resonate with your vision.
Beautifully said.
Oh,
And, don't forget the most important ingredient in this whole process.
what's that?
Passion.
Passion. Okay.
If you're not excited about what you're doing, it's going to show.
Right.
So find something you're truly passionate about. Pour your heart into it and watch your brand flourish.
Yeah, passion is contagious.
It is.
And it inspires. Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive. I hope you found this episode valuable. I hope you learned a few things that you can apply to your own brand building journey.
Mm-hmm.
And until next time, keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep diving deep